Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We have an exciting lineup of speakers who are established business owners to share their entrepreneurship journey through franchising. Few house rules. By default setting of a Zoom webinar, participants' mic are muted. If you have any questions, kindly type into the Q&A panel. Our event moderator will post questions raised to the panelists during the Q&A session. If you need any logistic assistance, open the participants window and click the raise hand icon. Today's session lineup as follows. Welcome remarks by Mr. Robert Leong, immediate past president of FLA. FLA introduction by myself, Tricia, executive director of FLA. Mr. Stanner, branch manager of UOB, will share a few words with us. Thereafter, we'll dive right into the main segment, which includes the presentation, followed by panel discussion. I will introduce the speakers as we move along. And finally, we will end today's session with Q&A. Without further ado, may I invite Mr. Robert Leong, immediate past president of FLA, to share a few words. Robert, please.
Good afternoon and welcome, friends and everyone. We continue to be encouraged that despite the international and regional economic challenges with time limitations, Singapore companies and brands are looking forward to expand and internationalize. The franchising industry around the world is growing. We are seeing franchising activities pick up in Singapore too. Our members in fitness, F&B, enrichment, retail, amongst many others, have secured franchise partnerships this year. FLA have also onboarded 30% more new members and 50% more participants in training courses online. FLA has prepared an exciting lineup of speakers from lifestyle, retail, education, F&B, and consultancy sectors who will be sharing their business tips and experiences. You'll gain a better understanding of franchising fundamentals, the benefits, the steps your company can take to prepare your business and brand, and actualize your potentials in regional markets. Our diverse panel will also share how their businesses have grown and internationalized through franchising, investment costs, tapping on franchisees' funding and efforts, challenged phase, and many other tips will be shared. So I'd like to encourage participation, especially for the Q&A segment, to maximize your takeaway from this session. We want to thank our partners and government agencies who have supported this event. Tricia will now share more on how FLA can support you in your franchise journey ahead. Thank you. All over to you, Tricia.
Thanks, Robert. A brief introduction on FLA. FLA is the official voice of franchising licensing industry in Singapore. FLA has a robust global network of partners to support our members' expansion and internationalization plans. We represent 130 members across key industries. We have 15 dedicated excos who are C-level management across diverse industries and disciplines. 4 of them will be sharing in today's panel session. The association organizes 2 flagship events annually. FL Asia, which is a trade exhibition to showcase brands for international business matching, with concurrent edu-conference. Awards, to recognize successful and promising brands. We do membership engagement events, capability building courses, overseas trade shows and business matching trips to drive business leads, and dialogues with government agencies and ministers. Our courses are all SSG registered with funding support for eligible candidates. Career conversion program for professional executive, franchising and licensing track. Our third intake is open for registration. there's a 3-month salary support and 12 days course fee grant. Attendees will be equipped to apply key franchise templates to set up franchise system, processes, and documentation. We encourage companies to ride on this opportunity to equip and prepare your staff for business growth post-COVID-19, whilst getting manpower support. FLA offers WSQ Essentials of Franchise Management course with up to 90% subsidy. The course covers an overview and fundamentals of franchising. We encourage business owners and their BD personnel to attend. WSQ Business Ownership course. Participants will obtain 2 WSQ Statement of Attainment on franchise management and capital expenditure and investment evaluation. Registration and details of the courses can be found on FLA's website. We are counting down to this event in less than a month on 25th and 26th of November. We would like to invite companies to consider showcasing your brands to international buyers via virtual booth exhibition. Individuals that are keen to invest in a franchise do register to find out more as well. May I now invite Mr. Stanoff from UOB for a few words. Stanoff, please.
Thank you, Tricia. Good afternoon, business owners. I am privileged to join FLA as an individual member this year. This is my 12th year with UOB as a branch manager. In my line of work, I engage business owners who are continually faced with the challenge of maximizing growth while minimizing cost. Growing the value of your business would normally require more capital allocation. On an international perspective, you may not want to allocate too much capital to a territory that is unfamiliar to you. A possible strategy to achieve a cost-effective outcome would be through sharing your business formula with potential franchisees. Beyond the traditional banking known to many, UOB has evolved into an ecosystem of connectivity. Apart from accounts and services, UOB is continually tapping on its global footprint to find opportunities to business clients. Today, we bring together the best of minds of established franchisors. There is no better time to get enriched by our industry experts as we navigate through the stages of the pandemic. I am thankful to participants who have expressed interest for UOB to connect with you. There will also be a post-event circulation of information and contact points from UOB to support each of you in your journey and career ahead. With that, I will now pass the time back to FLA.
Thank you, Stana. For our featured speakers, we have 4 of them from the F&B, retail, enrichment, education, lifestyle, and consultancy sectors to provide an all-rounded and impactful sharing session this afternoon. Mr. John Ong, Group Executive Chairman of FT Consulting and Exco of FLA, will start off with an introduction to franchising and the fundamentals. John has 18 years of experience as the lead trainer of FLA's flagship training course and has trained close to 1,000 business owners and senior executives in Singapore and the region. The session will be followed by a panel discussion moderated by Mr. Robert Leong, Director of Kinderland International Education and immediate past president of FLA. Kinderland has been a leading provider of quality infant care, bilingual kindergarten, and preschool education since 1978. Through franchising, Kinderland has grown over the past 3 decades across Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Australia. Our panelists are Mr. Dixon Loh, Director and co-founder of Revenue Valley Group and Vice President of FLA. Dixon co-founded the Manhattan Fish Market restaurant, which has since expanded across 14 countries through franchising and was recognized as the top franchise brand of the year for Malaysia in 2016 and 2017. Dixon also started Popeyes in Singapore, Tony Roma's, New York Steak Shack, and many other restaurant concepts in Malaysia. Mr. Ernie Koh, Chairman of Commune Lifestyle and Vice President of FLA. Through franchising and partnership, he has expanded Koda's market share, reaching more than 120 customers across more than 40 countries throughout the globe. May I now invite John to take over the session. John, please.
Thank you, Tricia. Let me just share my slides. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends and associates. Pleasure to be here with you all this afternoon. Franchising, the topic that we are talking about, it's not something new. In fact, it's been around in Singapore in practice for really many, many years. The government has since been promoting it in 1991, and it's 30 years this year, actively promoting franchising as a means to add value to businesses, as a means to grow, expand beyond local shores. And we can say that it is really a topic that is not so young, but trust me, it remains very hot today, right? Because it is the talk of the town still after 30 years of active promotion by the government. But before I go into the presentation proper, we'd like to run a little poll here. Thomas, please assist me with just only one question. And it's a simple yes and no answer kind of a question. Has your company considered franchising as a means of international business expansion? So I give you about a minute to answer, to respond. Thomas, do we have the results already?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to share? Wow, it's a high 79%, but actually also not surprising. And probably that's the reason why you're here today. And for the 21% who have not really considered, today might be a good time after hearing from some of our speakers, maybe raising your questions and having them addressed. Well, who knows? That might be something that you would seriously consider for growing your business. Okay, thank you, Thomas. I'll close that. Okay. Now, franchising as a means to grow your business value, to expand, to increase your profitability. Now, let's just come back to the principle, or let's just come back to the definition of what franchising is. And like I said, it is an old topic. Most of us know what it is. Essentially, it's a business relationship between somebody who owns a brand, a product, a winning product, a business system, and then it shares with somebody who is keen to take on the brand, the product, and the system, and to run it fairly independently, although under, I would say, fairly strict processes, in exchange for financial consideration. So that's the principle. That's the definition of franchising. And is it very popular? Yes, it is very popular. As I mentioned, already very actively, Singapore government has been promoting franchising, supporting franchising right to this day through grant funding and other indirect non-financial assistance programs. We have got many brands here. Some of you would be familiar with some of these brands here, cutting across F&B, education, retail, automotive services, you name it, you have it. So it's just cutting across various industries and sectors. Now, value. Why do we use the word value? Because when we run our business as businessmen, most of you are business person or you support business being the executive of your organization. You constantly want to create value. But do we realize that franchising is one of the ways to, first of all, unlock the values within your organization and also to continue to build value in your organization? Over time, the franchisor, it accumulates its industry know-how, experience, and the brand goodwill, and so on and so forth. It grows over time. At one point in time, it is so attractive. It is seen to be so able to attract, good financial returns. If somebody says, "I want to be a franchisee," or you feel that, "Hey, I'm ready to have more people on board me to be my franchisees to grow the business." So that's the point in time where the joint experience will take you to a lot more exponential growth. Because reality is, for many of the very successful franchises out there, they are so successful today because the growth is not just themselves, the brand owner, but franchises contributing great ideas, ground ideas, international exposure, experiences, cutting across different cultures. improving on your product and offerings and your systems. And that really adds more value to your business as you grow. So many successful brands out there have leveraged on franchising to achieve this kind of exponential growth in value. Very shortly, very succinctly, franchisor and franchisee relationship, one contributes strategies, all right, and system. The other one, the franchisee, is to commit to the business and to run it wholeheartedly, following systems. So there will be transfer of know-how, brand name use, whereas franchisee pays fees in general and buy products from the franchisor. Okay? Now, you may be thinking that my business, it's a lot on services, I may be a professional business service, design service. How can I franchise? Yes, it can still be, franchising can still be applicable to your business if you have a know-how, all right, a method of doing business or technology being made available to your franchisees. So it's possible still. You don't have to be just selling food or physical item to be franchisable. And these are some of the common methods for franchisor organizations to grow, to deploy. Using franchising, they have what we call the single unit franchise. Essentially, the franchisor grants the right to a single store, and the single store carries the brand name and to sell the products of the franchisor. It's commonly found within the same country of the franchisor, in country, commonly that way. Once a company or a franchisor goes overseas, they tend to deploy area development franchise, all right, or master franchise. Area development franchise means that the franchisee is given a whole territory to develop as an area, and most times they do not sub-franchise, as opposed to the third method, which is called master franchising. You can go to the third tier, fourth tier, to appoint sub and sub-sub franchisees and roll out pretty quickly. So these are some of the common methods. And as I said again, overseas, the latter two methods seem to be more common. Okay. Now, you may be wondering, if I go overseas, why should I franchise? Can't I do it on my own? I've got enough, financial resources. Why do I want to franchise? Now, the next few slides, this and the next few slides are just some comparison between the option of company-owned expansion versus franchising. I'll just go through very quickly, something for you to consider. In terms of resources and funds, yes, company-owned, heavy dependence on what you have, all right? You may be able to raise funds, but it is still very much dependent on yourself, put in a lot of effort to raise the resources to grow. Therefore, it might slower, it may make your growth rate slower. Whereas in franchising, you depend on your franchisee's resources to grow, potentially higher speed of growth. In terms of control and flexibility, if you're the franchisor, you say it will be done, usually it will be done by your employees overseas. If you tell them that's what I want to do, they usually toe the line, usually. Okay? Franchisees, you may still have to convince them why they have to toe the line, why they need to comply with this and that in order for them to really want to do it. So maybe not so easy for you to exert control, maybe not so flexible. Risk. Now, if it's your own operation, you may lack familiarity of the local market, the particular foreign country, and your risk of failure could be higher. And you may not. You may also bear with some country research as when there is a change of government. Whatever you have with that franchisee who is connected with the current government may be lost with the new government. There was a time when we know in the Philippines, depending on the president that is in charge, the franchisee may be very closely connected to one administration, all right? And a lot of things get done. But when the administration comes down and the new president comes out, everything changes. So all favor is lost. Potentially that could happen. And as a result of that, all that you have put in could be lost at the same time. Franchise business, franchisee takes care of the local part of the works. They take the money, they put the money in, take the risk. However, while they bear the bulk of the risk, there is also the risk of your franchisee betraying your franchise system, running away with your know-how, becoming your competitor. These are real risks, all right? And may also hurt the brand as a result of very bad business management, non-compliance. So something to also watch out. Ongoing revenue, the company keeps all the profit if it's your own. Franchising, you share, right? You get a cut of the franchisee's revenue. However, the quality of income can be higher. You don't have to work so hard, potentially, you can earn that kind of revenue. Vis-a-vis yourself, you put in the capital, you have to work sometimes, very, very hard to earn that kind of income. And under franchising, because it can grow so quickly, you can achieve economies of scale much more rapidly. That brings down your costs, all right? That's a financial benefit to the company. Laws, legal compliance, Some countries will restrict foreign ownership in certain industries, right? Something to pay attention to. Whereas in a franchise situation, you have got another set of potential legal encumbrances, which is actually franchise laws that you may have to comply with before you can even franchise in a particular country. So you can see that it's it's a mixed bag of pros and cons for both running your own company operations, 100% yourself, owning it, vis-a-vis appointing a franchise partner to do it. No right or wrong, just options for you. Now, we always like to encourage companies not to see it as, in a way, this or that. All right, there's a possibility of finding a balance between both your own expansion vis-a-vis franchising. Let's look at it as an arsenal of tools or a toolbox of tools by which you can use to expand your business. All right, depending on the country, the risk present in that country, how familiar or how comfortable you are with the local party, all right? You use the right tool. You can choose to use franchising in some markets. You can use direct full company ownership in another country. You can have a combination of both. You can also have your franchisee becoming your joint venture partner, which you may own a smaller stake in that business. So it can be a combination of both, all right? After all, company-owned stores can be sold to franchisees, and franchises can be acquired back for direct management. So there are examples, Taco Bell, Domino's, McDonald's. So different combinations are feasible. So don't just stick to one method as you grow your business. Look at the context, look at the situation, and deploy the right tool for that market. But franchising certainly is something that you should have in your toolbox. Now let's look at very quickly only as an overview, opportunities available in the regional markets. Very quickly, a snapshot of some of the fairly popular countries where Singapore franchisors head towards, has been like that for the last 15, 20 years. Now, just a quick one, China, really, they have really grown leaps and bounds in terms of franchising, appreciation of franchising, sophistication of franchising, the kind of things that they offer in terms of franchise management systems. They are not who they were 10, 20 years ago, right? Even for Singaporeans to go into China, you might not be able to compete even in first-tier cities like Shanghai and Beijing. You may have to even contend for the first time if you're not novice in the second or third tier or fourth tier cities even, all right, to be competitive, what you offer. Do not close your doors to third and fourth tier city because they could be fairly well developed and good market potential as well. Philippines, very good for Singapore F&B franchisors. A lot of these Philippines F&B conglomerates, the second, third, fourth generation, the family has become so big, some of them no longer are directly involved in the parents or grandparents' business. They may be happy to take on franchise businesses. So that's another area to look at. Indonesia, very popular. I think the #1 destination for Singapore F&B franchisors. The palette is the same. Indonesians they look up to Singapore brands, all right? Singapore's way of life, Singapore lifestyle. So many of our members in FLA have either considered or have actually planted the flag in Indonesia. Cambodia, Vietnam, up and coming. The only thing is that the spending power is not quite there. The middle income, it's not as big as some of the other countries we talked about earlier, but it is potential. Malaysia, well, the nearest, easiest in a way in terms of managing a potential franchise business there. But the franchise law governing franchise activities is a little bit challenging to navigate in Malaysia. And when it comes to F&B, Malaysians take a lot of pride in Malaysian cuisine, okay? So unless you got something very, very good to offer, you're going to have a tough time fighting the local, local food brands. So that's something that you have to contend with. And halal is another factor to consider. Japan, up and coming as well. A lot of interest from Singapore franchisors going in there, especially healthy food, all right? Ethnic food, things like that are seriously considered. And Japanese have also started to look to non-traditional American sources, European sources for franchise concepts. Okay. So that's a snapshot of franchising in the region. Okay, how do we then get ready for franchising? These are 6 short bullets as to what you need to do to get yourself ready. There's a lot more, but I have compiled these 6 fairly commonly faced and fairly important ones. First of all, you need to really get yourself in compliance with the franchise laws and other related laws, such as food law, religion law, right? If you want to go to some country, like I said, Malaysia or Saudi Arabia, something that you have to pay attention to, halal, religious compliance. make sure you have got your franchise registered before you go to some of these countries, all right? Market even in some cases. 2, protect your intellectual property, your trademark as well. Or in some cases, you may have actually an invention, a device that you use, and that device potentially you may need to get the patent registered or at least filed before you go in there, all right? To avoid people taking and then running away with it and infringing on your intellectual property rights. Customize and adapt the concept and product is important. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all across all countries, whether it's a food or a pair of shoes. All right. If you're only selling shoes in Singapore, but you're selling your shoes to a northern hemisphere country where you have a franchise operation, ensure that your shoe designs can cope with the winter weather. All right, and not just all the time open-toe shoes. All right. So something to think about. Food as well. The portioning, the flavoring, spiciness level. Whether you need to have some local staple. Something like that you have to consider as well. The concept itself, the model itself, full restaurants or kiosks, you also have to think about whether it works in that country. In Hong Kong, where the footprint, the rental footprint, footprint rental rather is very expensive. Having very big shops, something that you need to seriously consider. Okay. Build the support infrastructure, processes and team, documentation properly, train your people properly before you get your franchisees in those markets, because franchisees will be very unhappy if you can promise a lot, but when you eventually go there, they find that it's very lacking in support, not much infrastructure, not much management system that they can rely upon to run the business. And 5th point, take your time to find the right franchisee. It's very tempting. The first party that says that I've got $1 million to put on the table, you take them. No, it doesn't mean the person with the money is the right franchisee. Get the person with the right mindset, right background, connection in the market that can get you to the right strategic locations, open doors for you, obtain the licenses for you. All right. I have come across cases where people who are just very rich mistresses of very rich billionaire wanting to buy out franchises from Singapore to run. I mean, they may have the money. I'm not sure whether they can sustain the franchise business or bring it to success. All right. Take time to find the right franchisee. And very importantly, we are from Singapore. Leverage of the Singapore brand. Tell people you are from Singapore. Things are tested here. Reliability is high here. Trustworthy. Right? That's something that you can leverage on in your franchise marketing as well. Okay. All right. So that's my presentation. I'll be happy to pass the time over to Robert, who will be moderating the panel discussion. If you have any questions, I think later on there'll be a time for question and answer. Thank you so much,
John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the panel discussion. And we can start off with Manhattan Fish Market. Dixon, can you tell us about the early start of Manhattan and how you grew it into 14 countries?
Hi, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Wow, this is a new setting. Huh? All right. Yeah. Where's the social distancing? Do we have it? Is it 1 meter? Oh wow! There you go. Yeah, I thought Thomas did that yesterday, where it's some social distancing, where we want to talk about as much as we are coming here for this discussion online in Zoom, but we would respect whatsoever rules and regulations that is already right now on the ground, right? Okay, thanks for the introduction. John has spoken so much about what franchising is all about. In fact, it encompasses the whole element of what franchise is, the pros and cons, the needs and wants, and all the necessary support that's supposed to be. Well, thanks for changing position. Anyway, let me just start off with what we have done. Yeah, I'm a director and a co-founder for Revenue Valley Syndrome Berhad, where we actually started the Manhattan Fish Market some 19 years ago. From then on, of course, we have grew into other brands like Tony Roma's, NY Steak Shack. Within the capacity, we also grew Popeyes in Singapore, and of course, franchise of Manhattan Fish Market, which is a house brand, to the rest of the world. So let me just introduce MFM a bit. Let me just share the screen. Okay, just to borrow what Ernie said, this is a bit of Buay Koyo. It's just a branding, very fast one. I'm not going to be too draggy about this. All right, the brand is founded some 19 years ago. And then just with my partner, George, we started Manhattan Fish Market. Of course, the inspiration come from New York Fulton Fish Market, right underneath the Manhattan Bridge. That's where we got our name from. These are some of the brand values, what we want to do. This unit is in Qatar. Yep. And our price positioning, what do we want to do? Our guests, who they are, we have to know them. Yeah, time to flex our muscle, right? Well, every brand has an identity. In fact, this is something that is new as compared to the very first one, the logo, which is the maroon and the yellow. This is the one that we have just changed about 2 years ago. If you can look at it, it's the brand itself with a splash of water, and it's a yellow mark right there. And this is simplified, but it's very clean, very clear. Restaurant concept again here. This is the actual outlet in Wang Sha Walk, Wang Sha Maju in Malaysia. All right. So this goes through a lot of pain, a lot of changes, a lot of operational differences, different kind of sauces that you can use as much as you want. The menu itself. Some awards that we have won in Singapore as well. Well, serving the world, this is what we had right now. And why franchise? We'll discuss more in a little while, but again here, franchise has been one of the most interesting things that we have done to the brand. So we like to share that in a little while. Right. Okay, thank you. And that's the brand. And one of the things that I like to actually to bring out, that is, I'm always being asked and said that how do you grow into 14, 15 countries, 16 countries? One of the main elements that I always said, we are always recommended by follow franchisee to another group of people who really love the brand and wanted to try the product. They went, tried the product at the franchisee place, and they said, wow, this is fantastic. And this is where they share the context, and that's how we grew the franchise. Of course, in a lot of shows, we have a lot of inquiry, we have people come by, and that's how we actually get ourselves known at the same time. And probably later we'll talk about how do we choose franchisee. And my first franchisee comes very fun. It is just a young couple from Indonesia without any experience, without any really hit us. We spoke, we have a common language, we have a same wavelength. And because we were nobody at that time, that was our first one. So we said, okay, let's try it, let's work together. And we actually found the formula, we worked well together, and it grew from there. All right, so I'll pass to Ernie to introduce even a bigger company in Commute and Koda.
Thanks, Dixon. I think one thing I have to give it to Dixon, I think, and is as in all franchise owners, is the professionalism that we all need to have for our brands, especially the persona. You know, as Dixon says, you must carry the brand as you are literally trying to sell that your brand value to your partners. So allow me to share again, as Dixon said, my sell my koyo. Okay, let me see. Okay, Commune. Commune is a local company. We started about 10 years ago with two shops, one shop in Singapore, then quickly we went into two. It's basically a lifestyle furniture concept. Mainly, it's not my baby that is crying. Sorry, I don't know whose baby that's crying.
Understand.
Yeah, we have to have a professionalism in my presentation. So I came to a very quiet place. Anyway, we pride ourselves as a lifestyle company, not a furniture company. Okay, the brand story. Literally, this presentation is a very short, concise version of my presentation to my potential partners. We have literally a parent company, Koda, which is a 50-year-old company or 49-year-old that we started downstream because Koda is a manufacturer. It was a manufacturer. It is still a manufacturer based out of Singapore with manufacturing in Vietnam and Malaysia. So we went downstream to start the retail arm and call it commune. So traditionally, we are very strong in our design element and emphasize a lot on quality. So it's very timely. The third generation business are coming in. These are my nephews, not from the same sibling of my, it's their cousins. I mean, one of them brothers and one of them is their cousins. So it's very timely for them to step into the business because sometimes traditional business and like in manufacturing and all is a little bit boring. So they decided to come out and start off the commune, which each of them has got his own specialty. One of them a designer, one business development, and the other one is basically managing the whole entire operations. Again, moving forward, we in a lot of markets that we are in, we literally take sustainable design as one of our key selling positioning. And as Dixon and John says, needless to say, is the brand based in Singapore, Singapore owned, 新加坡上市公司. That's what we pride ourselves on when we sell into the Chinese market. So the brand value is very important. Who are you and what you are doing so that you are able to sell the potential. Today, I think we have more than 73 in China, 4 in Singapore. Or China, I'll go into it later. 73 is all franchise. Outside Singapore, besides Malaysia, we have 1. The rest are all franchise. Singapore and Malaysia is self-owned. Okay, these are the store concept and the global presence that we have. And as again, when you step into any commune shops around the world, you step in, the 5 senses got to match. The music is piped in Spotify, and they only are allowed to play the music selection. We have a commune scent, a typical smell in a shop. We have the look. It is a 5 sense sensory that triggers you. It enhances the 6th sense of belonging. That's where commune target when somebody comes in any shops, it is translated. And these are the ones that are not easy to translate into the every shop, around the world. I'm not going to go through this. These are the timeline that what we do over the past 10 years. These are some of the current style. So to add on, I will not share screen now. Let me see. Okay. So I think I let Robert do the question, then we will answer as we go along.
Thanks, Annie. Okay, maybe we can go down the journey to look at the common failures in some aspects from John. Over to you, John. Sorry, John, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Now, based on anecdotal observations, we have learned that a lot of franchisors failed because the franchisor itself has made certain assumptions or taken certain actions that did not lend to very good foundation in the franchise system. One, as I said earlier, just because the franchisee comes with the money, appears to be the right guy, the franchisor is quite happy to sign him up. But not, especially from Singapore, because you're a small market. Somebody big from China, USA coming to tell you that I want to buy your franchise, but they're actually not the suitable party. We may be quite tempted to go and sign up that particular franchisee. So too eager, not doing due diligence, not comparing alternatives. It's one of the typical reasons why it has not worked out. The other common cause for franchise failure is that some franchisors like to promise a lot, because we're really proud about our brands. It's been very successful in Singapore, and we really want to make it work. So we promise a lot, but in reality, when it comes to execution, the franchisor is not able to support that. In fact, the franchisor spends more time finding new franchisees than to ensure your existing franchisees are well supported to grow, to continue to be nurtured. And after a while, rest assured, actually in many cases like that, the franchisees either singly or collectively group together to sue the franchisor, take action against the franchisor for breach of agreement, for misrepresentation, for not doing your part in supporting us. So I would say that a lot of this problem actually arises from the franchisor being too eager or sometimes not putting the priorities in the right place. Really, foundation laying is important. Do not put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, can I just add on to that? Definitely, what John has said is, and especially what John has presented just now to say that the franchisor and the franchisee both have their own duties, right? Franchisor itself is probably on the mainly on the system itself, and likely the company roadmaps, how to grow it, how to help the franchisee, what's the best way, what's the learning of this particular brand that has been in many years that can support the franchisee. But then again, there are some franchisees who are very eager to show that they can actually take the brand to another level because they know the local very well. The part where we call too localized, from time to time, it scares off quite a bit of people and quite a bit of business. So in our part, we always like to use this word to say that think global, but act local. All right, so we can think to say that this brand can go globally, how it can grow, what is the strategy, but then to act on a local, we have to suit a local market, a local understanding, looking at facts, looking at numbers, what is the GDP, what are the pricing factors, and this is how it makes a success. And to me, one of the things that about failure and success, I'll say the key is in the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. Now, not all franchisee has the background to become a good franchisee, and at the same time, not all franchisor actually has the experience to be a good franchisor. So it is always a discussion, an understanding, how to come to a point where you support each other with facts and move on.
A lot of times, selecting partners is not going through the checkbox. A lot of times it's a lot of relationship, whether they have the same bandwidth, the same frequency as you. Because sometimes you end up with one that you check box, everything is perfect, but it doesn't matches what your DNA. And then moving forward is not easy. Think of it like a partnership as a marriage, that you need to have the constant relationship as you go along. Sometimes you get a master franchise. The thing is, sometimes they're better than you in a sense that they have multiple brands, and then they take on one of your brands. Immediately they say that you're immature or mature. So, but sometimes if you take a single store franchise, they are mom and pop, the scalability is another question, whether they are able to give you a second and third shop. So what we do as Commune is, for instance, like in my Wuhan store, he first started with one and then second one. Then we want him to expand, and he has got no money to expand. to Sichuan and Wuhan. So I says, okay, I'll buy you up. I buy 50% of what you have. Like what John says, you end up having a hybrid. First franchise, second a JV. So then we JV and then we do some capital injection, and eventually he has 8 in Wuhan and Chengdu. So this is the scaling up. He is able to scale quite fast because of some capital injection. Sometimes the most difficult to start is your first store. As Dixon says, you end of the day you are nobody. And you're trying to, they'll find as you're like literally going around to look for somebody, and you grab the first one available. But again, you will have to, their failure is, your expectation. You have like, as you go along, some of it, they don't match, then you have to change. But again, I have to emphasize that that's the part about FLA. FLA, the association are able to help you. If you, like one of the questions that says, how do you set this foundation to ensure successful franchise system? FLA actually has the members like John as our panel of professionals. And we have also like a diagnostic kit, things like this. So there are many programs and activities at FLA that the potential franchisor that wants to take a brand out into the market, we're able to come to our association. The franchisee that is also afraid, because when as a small mom and pop, you need to look into whether they'll eat you up or not as a franchisor, because of the legal IP and all the contract. Again, FLA, for instance, we have a panel of lawyer advisors that are able to recommend you. So things like this, I think a lot of you are in, the cloud is there, unsure about it. Approach us and buy me coffee and I'll sit down, or buy John a coffee and sit down, free advice for an hour or so before John start charging you, or I start demanding lunch from you all.
Okay, thanks, Ernie. Question to Dixon. In your experience in F&B, is a single unit franchise suitable for Indonesia and Philippines? Or should a franchisor look at an area instead?
I don't suppose there's a right and wrong answer to that. All right, a franchise is where two parties come together to realize a dream, and that is very important. Of course, being the brand itself, you want to open as many as possible. But then again, if this is the first time that you're entering a market, it's also a try to see if it can actually grow and start certain things. I mean, F&B, the palette itself that I'm selling might be suitable for certain market, but might not be suitable for another market. Example, when I went to Thailand, we have same thing. The hybrid model is in fact an investment by us together with a Thai company. And what happened was that this company itself, it says that, hey, this is our first outlet. Can you send all your guys here to help us to do it? And we did it, and we opened our first outlet. It was doing quite okay. But the first challenge about this is about testing the market, understanding what the market is all about. Having Thailand, knowing Thailand, their palate is extreme. When it comes to spiciness, sourness, everything, they are extreme. And using our recipe to put over there, I have invited 30 guests. And these 30 came, I cooked, they have tried, and I asked them, hey, what's your feedback? They say, okay lah, not bad lah. That's no good at all, frankly. If that is the answer, that's no good. That's in fact very bad. So there was one particular friend that is very close to me. I pull him aside. I say, hey, tell me what's wrong with it. And they say, in this market, this is what it's supposed to be. So it is a good try to say that we tried with them. And then, well, they grew a couple of units after that by their own, and we just support from behind. So, well, I would say that having one outlet to open up is always very important. If you could actually spend some time to understand the market there, and then coordinate with the local franchisee, I think that is actually a perfect match. There's always opportunity. Who doesn't want to open second and third, right?
Yeah.
Dixon, I think for your F&B business, you need to cater for the cultural aspects of things. I always say, if you go to Italy, if you eat the spaghetti, sometimes it's not nice, but it's Italian, you know. So when you come to Singapore and Asia, they put a bit soy sauce, a bit chili sauce in it to have your palates. So when we started at Commune with the intention to go China, there's a spectrum whether how much adaptation that we want to adapt to the market. Whether no adaptation or, it's not whether you adapt everything, I say to what spectrum. And we decided to stick on to has as little adaptation. Even McDonald's, if you go to China, they sell rice. In Singapore, they have rendang burger. There's a minimum adaptation. So we adapted 10% to the market, not on the design, but on the sizing, and also when we went there 10 years ago, we had, concrete floor and our whole shops is painted black. They look at it and says, what do you mean? This is crazy, but we stuck onto it. And today the trend of China is concrete floor and everything is black. There's a question from Hillary I would like to address is on the distribution model. I think, Dixon, you're on a franchise fee model, if I'm not wrong. I think John can, if you approach John for coffee, he can tell you different model. Mine is basically, I don't charge upfront fees. Upfront fees are very little, a few $1,000s, because I cover costs for me to ask our guys to fly around. But my main revenue stream is to distribution of my products to them. The tough part about distribution model is you have to have all your distribution. You have to have a warehouse in certain points. I have in Shanghai and Dongguan. And you have to make sure that your back end is stock up all the way for your franchisee. The minute that somebody order, they will have the stock. We will have the stock to supply them within 5 days. Ship to the. So the challenge of a physical product as a distribution model is your supply chain, and then on top of that, the front end of it, you have to do their marketing, your social media, and all for your brand. So a lot of work in that, but again, it is very inexpensive way to get into the market because you share the risk and also you share the capex, and you go into the market.
Okay, thanks. All right. Then from your experience, do you have any advice for the countries of Indonesia and Philippines, whether unit is more suitable to start off for F&B or look at an area? Dixon?
Definitely, if to choose, who doesn't want an area or a country? It all depends on the franchisee that you are really comfortable with, how much enthusiasm that they show, how much of the analysis that they have done for the business as well as for the country. I think not only ticking all the box to say that they are financially stable, I think for me, like what I say, relationship, understanding, that is one of the key elements to success. And it's always started small with one before you can actually grow more. So yes, I would always encourage to say that you can always start small, and from there, if there are chances to engage a bigger company, this is where you could actually put it to the very small company at first and say that we can start this off. And if there are bigger players that come on board, we can actually do it together again.
Yeah, may supplement this point that Dixon had brought up. Now, I think, yeah, there is always that strategic preference. If you can work with a guy who is substantial, got the right connection, maybe already running a lot of multi-brand F&B businesses, it's good to not start with a single unit. That's the preferred. As a start, of course, you want to make sure the first store, all right, does well. But in general, once you cross, just a general principle, once you cross border, avoid having a long-term strategy that is dealing with too many single unit franchisees, because you get sucked in a lot into individual issues. You're dealing with too many parties, different characters outside there, and oftentimes single unit franchisees might not have the they usually are undercapitalized. They might not have sufficient resources to grow the business. So the preference is working with established, resourceful organizations, but you can start it a little bit smaller. Even if you start out with a smaller area, you can always allow the area, for example, from Jakarta, it can expand to maybe Surabaya and Java, and then you go to other parts. So it can grow according to performance targets being fulfilled. Or right of first refusal if there's no other party taking other islands in Indonesia. So different strategies can come into play, but caution is indeed necessary. Especially, like I said, the guy may say that, oh, I've got a lot of money, just give me the whole of the country. It's not a matter of money, it's a matter of opportunity cost. If the guy who takes on it doesn't develop the brand, he sits on it and you can't really end his relationship, then somebody else could have come in to do a better job. You're just wasting that opportunity. So it's a lot about balancing act.
Thanks, John. And how do franchisors maintain relationship formally and informally with franchisees? Any your thoughts?
Every twice a year, we have like a franchise conference where we invite all in and have a rah-rah for 2 to 3 days where everybody's happy, and then they go back all pumped up. I think a lot of motivation is needed because they are the front end of your brand. And again, sometimes you get into close to 100 shops around the world. You need to start auditing. How are you going to audit? And a lot of this, you think, oh, so many things to do. Franchise is overwhelming. But if you start your own shops, one shop in China, also very overwhelming. But again, there are many third party that you can use. How do you audit? You can get a third party in. Logistic, now the third party logistics is there. So many of this nowadays are the system and all is quite mature. If your brand value is strong enough, I always have to emphasize, you have to have something unique. Your brand proposition and your brand value is strong enough that you're able to bring overseas, that people look at it and say, hey, this is interesting. And again, you do not sell the product. Because when you start selling only the product as a franchise concept, it is easily copied. But you sell a lifestyle, you sell your DNA, and you sell a Singapore brand, you keep dwelling on the intellectual property of, even you have as a product, but intellectual property. So when somebody go to McDonald's and if a competitor called McDonald's come in, it is still, people prefer the McDonald's, even it's more expensive. So there is always the brand recognition that you have to have. But I think for this purpose of this webinar is, I think the hurdle is to start off with the first one. And the first one is, I think single unit may be something you can consider and is easier to manage. And when you fail on single unit, and then you move on again. So I think if not, you do an area franchise. That's what we do, like for Beijing and Shanghai. And then you KPI them into how many shops. Sometimes they area franchise it and then hold on to open one shop and then 1 year don't open the rest because they see you as a competitor to their brand. And sometimes one of the barrier of entry for you is for them to take the brand. So you got to be careful of things like this, especially in places like China where the franchise, as John says, is very developed. The franchising model is very developed. When you go in, not professional, then they will see it right away. You're muted, Robert.
Thanks. If unfortunately there's a need to terminate the relationship, what are some of the critical areas to prepare for and consider? Maybe John?
Yeah, I think if you take a step back, how can this be preempted, at least put into the franchise agreement as to how to resolve dispute? Now, in the past, I would say that the standard would have been either arbitration or litigation, which means you go to court. But we have found that more commonly these days, it's an increasing practice these days to have mediation being put in front, meaning that before you blow it up in public, all right, of course, arbitration doesn't have to be too public. It's best that you try to resolve it amicably. Whether it is going through the proper mediation center, some of these government-linked mediation center, or even going through the association. Actually, I remember in the past as in the association, we have handled some of these cases before, and allowing both sides to air and hear their views. Not that we do it as an everyday thing, but when it happens, we like to ensure that the Singapore franchise scene grows healthily. Also, I would say that we don't want Singapore to be developed into a very litigious society where franchisors or franchisees always sue each other. So we play that kind of part. So yes, put in mediation, put in amicable, discussions before they even resort to going, big in court. But I would say even before you reach that stage, right? I always believe in the relationship. I mean, the business is always a relationship. In America, very established franchisors really go by the book. Everything is by the book. It's not wrong, I mean, that's what the agreement says is by the book. But I would say that sometimes look beyond the book, look at the circumstances, look at the partner, what the partner is going through, the kind of difficulties. I mean, if the partner is putting in the effort, but it doesn't produce the results by the letter of the law, will there be a way to work things out? Will there be concessions? It's possible, achievable by both parties sitting down, all right, just to work things through. Don't even have to reach the stage of mediation. The two parties just talk. And I think earlier on, Ernie mentioned the different platforms, informal get together. I think those are platforms that issues can be raised. And I think it's also important that the franchisor must bear a heart and an attitude of wanting the franchisee to do well. To believe that if franchisees do well, then I will do well. Then you will listen to their ideas and not take it as noise. Otherwise, after a while, you think that it's just noise. It's just repeated. It always comes this way. I don't want to hear anymore. I don't think they are right. Only I'm right. So the attitude must be correct, to be willing to listen. Then you can work out solutions for your franchise.
Yeah. So well said, John. Exactly, especially at these pandemic times, we have seen many franchisee outlets being shut down for many months. And of course, cash flow will become a challenge. And well, everybody do, we do at the same time. So of course, we might be chasing for royalties, but what about the franchisees who have to shut their business? This is where this compassionate part of it has to come in, where you've got to understand and realize to say that it is not only yourself, it is not only that your brand itself, you're looking one way at the franchisor, but it is as a whole, as a partnership. How do you balance that and get each one of us motivated to go the next journey?
Yeah, I think the in Asia's way, I think the network, the Guanxi is more important. And there's a failure in one of your franchisee. You must know that for me, if I do once or twice a year gathering, everybody knows everybody, and everybody talks about everybody to everybody. So if you mess around with one franchisee, the words gets in, and I think Dixon was saying that the easiest way to get a new franchisee is word of mouth, where you get introduction. But if you take in the law into hand before you do any negotiation, then it is not the way to go. You go all the way. We caught our franchisees selling other people's product in a commune shop and pass it on to the commune. You still have to manage it. You don't bring them to court. You just manage it and step their hands and all. As Dixon said, also during COVID time, when COVID started, when China shut down, there's literally no business at all in there over there. So we pivoted into online and then give them the whatever sale online as accounted as their area sales. So those are the things that you will have to, as a partner, you literally have to help them. Also, we give discount to our products to them, and then they will take, they will pass it on down. So many of these things treat it as your own business, and how to solve the problem. Unless you get a one that do things behind your back, you have to cut it off immediately. But in China, it's very good. The franchise agreement is pegged onto your lease of the shop. So if the lease is up, you have to renegotiate the lease. You renegotiate the franchise. So it is easily breakable. But then that's to your advantage on that.
Thanks. So a referral is great for potential franchisors. What are the other ways, and how do you find for retail the best consulting company? The answer is see Tricia and Thomas after this. Okay, we have got 8 minutes more. Next question. Education laws and guidelines differ from country to country, right? How much localization is acceptable before the brand becomes diluted? And how do franchisors selling services like education ensure compliance in a cost-effective manner, especially if customization is required between different countries? Yeah, so number one is we need to look for what the regulatory authorities are looking at, and then look at our core value proposition. Most of the time, you might find that the core value proposition of your curriculum and your pedagogy would be there. It's a question of sort of tweaking it to meet the local requirement. And there might be a 10 to 20% really new requirement which we do not have. And so we have to invest in meeting that 10 to 20%. Do it in a cost-effective way where customization is concerned. We need to look for the local guide or the local domain expert and talk to them so that whatever we tweak and whatever we come up with will be relevant for longer term. Next is the growth of cloud kitchens and e-commerce purchases versus traditional dining. How does this come into play in terms of international franchising model, cloud kitchens and e-commerce purchases versus brick and mortar, in-store selling and dining? Any thoughts?
Perhaps I can share a bit about the ghost kitchen. Now, when COVID comes, of course, everybody was thinking, how long will this last? And it has lasted as long as we knew. And how long more will it go? Nobody knows. There's no answer. But then again, here we knew that if a certain act having enough time to nurture, it will become a habit. So if you are going to remember to say that it started in March 2020 or as early as January 2020, now delivery have now actually evolved more than 18 months. It's in fact probably about 20 months, coming to 2 years. So if that continues on, will it become a habit or worse, it becomes part of the lifestyle? And that is no hiding upon it. And we understand to say that the place, the rental that we pay, visas, whatsoever that we are going to generate from existing walking customer is not going to be there. So right now, brands itself within F&B are always looking at internally, not only that all those ghost kitchen that is of international brand, but internally, let's say a fried chicken outlet, they have their fried chicken right in front of the brand, but then within the kitchen itself, they could have another 1 or 2 other brands because they don't have to invest in terms of their equipment, they don't have to invest in the people, so that they can actually maximize the sales and actually fill up the void that is being left by this pandemic itself. That's one of the ways that many of this F&B has actually worked on at the meantime. Yeah. So when it comes to franchise system, will that be part of it? The answer is also yes, because it's a global issue. It's not just a local issue. So for brands like ourselves, we are always learning how are we going to have an advantage? How are we going to create a menu? How are we going to create a brand that we can also take this virtual brand to our franchisee and say that, look, once you have probably our brand, let's say Manhattan Fish Market, you are automatically for yourself into a few virtual brands that we are taking. And these are just a additional business opportunity for you to grab together with us. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may add to Dixon's point, yes, it is a trend. And we are in fact serving a few companies that have incorporated e-commerce to part and parcel of their brick and mortar retail business, as well as even ghost kitchen to their actual restaurant, to supplement their actual restaurant business. Because really, if you only sell, if your franchise model is purely physical, going forward, you just don't know how much your franchisees might lose out in competitiveness and then cost management aspect as well, if they only have that aspect. So yes, we have got a number of companies coming in to say that they want a more holistic approach. They want both online and offline business for their franchise concepts. It could be added on modularly, like modules into the franchise package.
Okay, great. Ernie, some final thoughts on going online?
E-commerce is something interesting because there's no boundaries. If you give them as like a one country, there's like in China or Malaysia, and when you start on with e-commerce, how do you manage, especially you're on a distribution model, how do you clock in the sales? And then your franchisee may feel it as a threat to them rather than an opportunity for them. So, but then again, when you start pivoting in times like this, I take e-commerce as a tool, not the end game. As John said, one of the tools for your business. Because if we are in a lifestyle business, product sales, end of the day, you still need to visit the shop of the franchisee. The omni channel comes in online, offline. So you will have to message it to your partners, franchise partners, that I'm doing e-commerce as a tool for everybody. And you clock in the sales by the area that defined to you. So then they say, oh, okay, I understand it's a pure marketing effort that somebody will come in and see it and close it at the point of sale. Yeah, but I will have to stress for those people that are viewing as a potential taking a brand franchisee, taking a brand in. There are mature brands that cost a lot of money to bring in, like a Subway and a McDonald's. There are smaller brands that are able to work. I think selection of the brand has got to do with your passion. You just don't do it just as a pure business, especially as a single store. You need it as a passion, and then you take it as a right DNA, as a right frequency. Then your partnership is something that will be long lasting.
Thanks, Ernie, Dixon, and John. That's all that we have time for this afternoon. There are many thoughts and questions which you might still have. And please proceed to communicate with FLA office for your further interest in exploring franchising as a business model going forward. Tricia?
Thank you, Robert, and we'd like to thank all our guest speakers, our event partners, and all of the attendees for making this afternoon a fruitful and engaging discussion. FLA looks forward to connecting with you through our capability equipping courses and business matching events. Reach out to our secretariats to inquire more, and we will circulate some of the resources to your registered email after today. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Tricia, I would like to stress that for those that franchisors that are interested and haven't started you take the diagnostic kit that FLA has and attend the WSQ courses as a start. It's a very cheap way to get familiarized with it. Then subsequently, if you need to look for, that's how we start a consultant that to formalize all your all the systemizing and all, you know, also FLA is able to help. So those are the starting point. Look into familiarizing and all, you know. So those are the courses stated that you have, and on top of that, we have a diagnostic kit that we are able to do. Thank you.
Can I just add on a little bit to the question inquired by Salvia earlier on? Just give me a few minutes. Well, there's no one-size-fits-all financing solution, but basically right now, earlier on we have a seminar on 30th September, whereby, you know, it is like it's be your own boss, and it appeals more to franchisee and startup, right? And I think in what I've shared, right, UOB is able to finance, okay, if let's say, you know, you have a notice of assessment of 20,000 or turnover of 100,000, and the business is in existence for 1 year. So this was something that was worked out when Tricia approached me, and then we decided to collaborate for the first year with FLA. And this is something that has been a bit, I would say, more revolutionary than other banks, because the business is only in existence for 1 year, and yet we'll consider these applications based on the notice of assessment and also based on the turnover. So importantly, I think approach me if there's any questions with regards to how we can finance your business, and then we can discuss more and see how we can support you.
Thanks, Kenneth. Tricia?
We have come to the end of today's session, so feel free to reach out to myself if you need any connections or contacts, or you need to find out more about our courses, like how it can help you. Our secretariat team is ready to assist you and support you in your next step forward. So just write an email to us or call us anytime. Thank you for attending, and we hope to connect with you in our upcoming event.